Welcome to tonight's deep dive.
Excited to be here.
We're going to be looking at something pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's called The Midnight Train-Off Possibilities.
Okay.
And it's just a single source, just this one excerpt.
Got it.
And it's all about, it follows these two characters,
Mm-hmm.
Nina and Blake.
Okay.
And they keep meeting each other
Okay.
on this train.
Yeah.
But this train, it's a little bit special.
In what way?
It only arrives at midnight on platform 13.
Okay, that's, I'm intrigued already.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like, have you ever thought about, like, the paths you didn't take in your life?
Oh, all the time.
This
yeah.
story's kind of about that.
Interesting. I'm hooked already.
So picture this. We're on platform 13.
Okay.
It's not your typical station.
What do you mean?
It's more like antique. You know, like an old clock, those worn benches.
Yeah.
And then at midnight, this train, it pulls up, and it's got this, like, obsidian exterior. You know, like it just sucks in all the light around it.
Wow.
And it's Nina. She's the one who always seems to be there. Like, she can't stay away.
That's, so you're saying this midnight and platform 13? Those are important.
I think they got to be right.
Yeah, it feels very symbolic. Not your typical train ride.
Definitely not. It's like, you know, that feeling of being between worlds.
Like a liminal space, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And midnight itself, it's like the witching hour, right? Between one day and the next.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then 13, you know, unlucky for some, but it definitely adds to the mystery, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, totally.
Like we're stepping outside of normal time and space, you know?
All right, so what happens next? I got to know.
So Nina, she finally gets on the train.
Okay.
Specifically, car number 7.
7. Any significance to that, you think?
Maybe, maybe not. But what really struck me was the description of the windows.
Oh, yeah.
They were fogged like sea glass, worn smooth by endless tides. What do you think about that?
It's like time.
Right.
Like, you know, all those possibilities being shaped over, like, forever.
I like that, yeah.
It's like each piece of that sea glass is like a path not taken,
Mm-hmm.
polished by all those choices.
It makes you think about how maybe those alternate realities, they're not always so clear-cut.
Oh, so they're hidden.
Yeah, they're obscured, like, behind that veil of what might have been.
Okay, so the mystery's deepening.
All right.
And then what happens when the train starts moving?
Well, this is where the imagery gets really wild.
Okay, I'm ready.
The world outside the train, it just kind of dissolves.
It dissolves.
Yeah, into these watercolor streams of light, like swirling all around.
Oh, wow.
And each stream, the story says, is a different path, a possibility left behind.
Okay, now that, to me, that screams multiple realities. Like we're actually seeing the multiverse.
Yeah. You got it. It's not just an idea anymore. It's like something you could reach out and touch.
And I love that, how it takes something so complex and makes it feel real. Yeah, exactly. That's what good storytelling can do. So we're hurtling through this kaleidoscope of possibilities.
Where do we end up first?
First stop, we see Nina, but she's a botanist in this reality.
A botanist. Interesting.
She's taking care of these rare flowers that only bloom under the moonlight.
Moonflowers. I feel like there's got to be some deeper meaning there.
Oh, absolutely. They're all about hidden truths. Like, you know, the kind of knowledge that only reveals itself under certain conditions.
Kind of like you need to get away from the city to see the stars, right?
Exactly. You need that contrast, that darkness to really see some things clearly.
So we've got Nina, the botanist, tending to her moonflowers in this other reality. What about Blake? Where does he fit in?
He pops up, kind of out of nowhere, sitting across from her.
Really?
But this time, he's a composer.
Wait, a composer? I thought he was, didn't we see him as?
That's the thing about Blake. His identity seems to change with every reality they visit.
So like different versions of him?
Yeah, like different expressions of the same person.
Like facets of a diamond, each reflecting the light differently.
And even though he's different each time, there's still that connection between him and Nina.
Deeper than whatever, like, job he has in that reality.
Exactly.
And he asks her this question, like, are all these possibilities just variations on a theme?
Like a melody played in different keys.
Yeah. So are we all just, like, different versions of ourselves? Still essentially us, even if our lives were totally different.
It's a big question, right? Like, are we fundamentally the same across all these different realities?
It reminds me of that thing, the ship of Theseus, you know? Like, if you replace every part of a ship, is it still the same ship?
It's a question that's been around forever, and this story, it really digs into it.
I like how Nina answers. She says, Maybe some songs are meant to be played together, and she connects it to her moonflowers, how they always bloom in pairs.
It's like we're not meant to be alone. Right.
Even across different realities, we need each other.
It's like we're all part of a bigger song, all these different melodies coming together.
I love that. So they keep traveling on this train. Where do they go next?
The story describes it as winding through the quantum fabric of might-have-beens.
Wow, that's some beautiful imagery.
Right. It's like they're traveling through the very structure of possibilities.
Like all those different realities intersecting. And it's during this part of the journey that Nina has this realization.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
She says, some truths, just like her moonflowers, need a specific kind of darkness to come out.
That makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what is that darkness in our own lives?
What do we need to step away from to really see clearly?
Yeah. Solitude. Maybe a break from all the noise and the busyness. What do you think?
I think it's different for everyone,
True.
but it's about creating that space to look inward.
To reflect, yeah.
So then the train pulls into another station. It looks exactly the same as the one they left from,
Really?
but something feels different.
Okay, I'm sensing a but coming.
It's like they've arrived at the same place, but with a new understanding.
It's like when you go back home after a long trip. Everything's the same, but you've changed.
You see things differently.
So it's not about the destination, really.
It's the journey, right?
Exactly. What happens next?
Well, Nina and Blake, they just know without even saying anything.
No wonder.
This is their stop.
Wow. They feel it.
Yeah, it's like they've reached a point of understanding.
A connection that goes beyond words.
Yeah, so they get off the train.
Yeah.
The train, it just vanishes.
Wait, what? It just disappears.
Gone. All those other possibilities, gone.
And how do they react to that?
They're not sad, not at all.
Really?
It's like they've accepted it.
They've made their choice.
And they're embracing it.
Embracing the reality they're in.
Exactly. And then the clock strikes midnight.
Again.
Same sound, different meaning this time.
Because now there's no train to catch.
They don't need it.
They found something more real.
They found their reality together under the stars.
That's beautiful. It's like the real magic wasn't the train, it was the connection they found.
It emphasizes the power of human connection, even with all these possibilities swirling around us.
It's a lot to unpack, that's for sure.
We've only just scratched the surface. What happens next in part 2?
Let's go deeper. Explore the symbolism, the hidden meanings in this journey, and see what we can learn about our own lives and the choices we make.
Okay, so we went on this incredible journey with Nina and Blake, through all these possibilities.
Yeah, it was quite a ride.
But like you said, there's more to it than just the surface.
Definitely. Lots of layers to peel back here.
So let's dive into that. Let's talk about the symbolism.
All right, let's do it.
What about the train itself? What do you think it represents?
Well, it's not your everyday train, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. Midnight, platform 13.
Exactly. All that mystery surrounding it. It's like a symbol of all those paths we could have taken, those other lives we might have lived.
It makes me think about those late night thoughts, like when everything's quiet and you start wondering, what if?
Oh, yeah, I know those thoughts.
Is the train a way to, escape those thoughts? Or maybe face them?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe it's both. It gives Nina and Blake a chance to see those other realities, to explore those possibilities, but without actually changing their lives.
So like a safe way to explore those what ifs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also curious about those fogged windows you mentioned, like sea glass. That was such a striking image.
Yeah, it really stuck with me too.
It makes you think about how those possibilities, they're not always clear,
Not so straightforward.
Yeah, just like those fogged windows, we can't really see clearly what might have been. It's all kind of blurred, distorted by time, by memory.
It's like trying to put together a broken mirror.
Yeah.
You have these pieces, these glimpses, but you can never get the full picture back.
Exactly. And maybe that's intentional,
You think the story's saying maybe it's better not to dwell too much on those other realities?
It's possible. Maybe it's wiser to acknowledge those possibilities without getting too fixated on them. Like those fogged windows could represent the inherent uncertainty of what might have been.
We'll never know for sure how things would have turned out if we'd made different choices.
Right. And maybe it's okay not to know. It's interesting how the story contrasts the train journey with Nina's moonflowers, isn't it?
Yeah, how so?
The train's all about movement, exploration, all those multiple realities. But the moonflowers, They represent something deeper, more grounded.
Like those hidden truths we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. They only bloom under specific conditions, hidden from view most of the time.
Like they need that darkness to thrive.
And maybe we need our own kind of darkness to uncover those hidden parts of ourselves.
I like that. Our own midnight hour. So what does that darkness represent for us, you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. Could be solitude, silence, a break from our routines, you know? What do you think?
I think it's about creating space for introspection, for those quiet moments where we can connect with ourselves.
I love that. Creating space for introspection. It's like hitting pause on the daily grind and just allowing ourselves to be, to observe, to contemplate.
And maybe that's when we can really appreciate the path we're on, the choices we've made, and the people who are with us on the journey.
Speaking of the journey, what about those train stations? They're all identical, but Nina and Blake sense a difference when they reach their stop.
Yeah, that was subtle, but it really stood out to me too.
I think it highlights the importance of perception, you
Yeah.
know? Even if things look the same on the outside, our experiences, our internal state, it all colors how we see things.
It's like going back to the same place, but it feels different because you've changed.
Exactly. Those stations, they're like those pivotal moments in life.
They might look similar, but the meaning's different based on what we've been through.
And it's not just about the external journey, right? It's about how we've changed internally along the way. Nina and Blake might arrive at a station that seems familiar, but they've evolved, they've grown.
And that growth, it's not always a big, dramatic thing. It can be subtle, like the way the light changes throughout the day.
Yeah, it's a shift in perspective. The station's the same, but the light's different. You mentioned earlier that the train could be a way of facing those what-if thoughts. What about getting off the train? What do you make of that?
Oh, I think that's a powerful moment.
It is, isn't it?
It's like making a choice, saying yes to the present, to this reality, and letting go of all those other possibilities.
And it's not about denying those other paths, right? It's about accepting that we can only live one life at a time.
And there's something beautiful about that, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's about embracing the path we're on and making the most of it, recognizing that our choices have shaped us, and that's okay.
It's like saying yes to our lives, with all their flaws and complexities. And the story seems to be saying that includes saying yes to the people we share our lives with.
I love that. The train journey might be a solo trip, exploring those internal landscapes. But ultimately, it brings Nina and Blake back to each other, back to a shared reality.
So the vanishing train, the clock striking midnight again, those identical but different stations, it all comes back to choice, to perception, and the importance of connection.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
But it's so thought-provoking, you know?
It really makes you think about your own journey, your own choices, and the people who help you navigate it all. So as we move towards the final part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
how do we take all this symbolism, these interpretations, and apply them to our own lives? What can our listeners take away from Nina and Blake's experience?
That's a great question and a perfect transition. Let's shift our focus to you, the listener. What are your midnight trains? What choices have brought you to this point, to this reality? And who are the Blakes in your life? Who helps you make sense of it all? So we've explored this story. We've talked about all those symbols.
Yeah, we've been through a lot.
But now, how do we bring it all back to our own lives?
Right, right. How do these ideas of other realities or those hidden truths, how do they apply to us right here, right now?
I think that's what everyone's wondering.
It's interesting, isn't it? We always talk about this reality like it's the only one.
Yeah.
But this story, it kind of makes you question that. Maybe reality is a bit more flexible than we think.
Flexible.
Yeah, there are these hidden dimensions just waiting to be found.
Okay, now you got me curious. Tell me more about these hidden dimensions.
Think about those moonflowers again, Nina's moonflowers.
Yeah, okay.
They need the darkness to bloom, right? Their beauty only comes out under the moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
What if that's a metaphor for us?
Well, us.
For parts of ourselves. What if some of our truths, our talents, the things we're passionate about, they can only come out when we step away from all the noise of everyday life?
So you're saying we need our own version of darkness, like our own midnight hour, to find these hidden parts of ourselves.
Exactly. Those moments when we step off the main path, those are our personal midnight trains that can take us to unexpected places.
I've felt that when I travel or when I try something new, I see things differently and I see myself differently.
See, Those are your midnight trains. And it's not always about those big adventures. It can be about exploring the different sides of yourself, the parts you don't always show.
Like how Blake is an artist, then a physicist, then a composer. Are you saying we all have these different versions of ourselves inside us?
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. We all have those potentials. The artist, the scientist, the adventurer, the caregiver, they're all in there somewhere. And even just imagining those possibilities or expressing them creatively, I think it can help us understand ourselves better.
So how do we actually find these midnight trains in our own lives? Like, where do we start looking?
It begins with being curious, with being willing to, step outside your comfort zone and explore the unknown.
So it's not about, like, quitting your job and traveling the world necessarily. It's about the smaller moments of discovery, when you see things from a new angle.
Exactly. It could be anything, really. Trying a new hobby, talking to someone who has different opinions than you, or even just taking a different route to work. It's about breaking those patterns that keep us from seeing the possibilities all around us.
And what about the people we spend time with? Do they play a part in all this?
Oh, absolutely. Remember how Blake, challenges Nina's thinking, how their conversations help her see things in new ways? Those are like the Blakes in our lives.
The people who push us to think differently.
Yeah, the ones who help us question our assumptions and make sense of our own journeys.
So it's not just about finding our own midnight trains. It's also about recognizing the people who are already on the journey with us, the ones who guide us.
Exactly. They remind us that we're not alone in this, They offer support, they celebrate our discoveries.
And the story shows us that even when that train of possibilities disappears, those connections, those shared experiences, they stay with us.
That's what Nina and Blake find in the end, right? Standing together under the stars.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder that those real connections, those moments of joy, of wonder, even of hardship, they're the things that make our lives meaningful. It's not about chasing after some perfect reality, but about appreciating the reality we're building together with the people we love.
Beautifully put.
So as we step off this train, off this deep dive into the midnight train off possibilities, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
I'd say, think about this. What midnight train is waiting for you? What choices led you to this point, to this life? And who are the Blakes in your life, those people who make the journey richer, who help you navigate all the twists and turns?
What a great thought to leave everyone with. Thank you for joining us on this journey. And until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep embracing the wonder of your own unique path.